Good morning, everyone. It's Mike here from Morton Lights, taking you on a 2025 behind the scenes video. I thought I'd mix it up this year and actually start behind the scenes in the control shed where everything happens to begin with. Here is where the show essentially runs from. All the controlling hardware is in here, other than the lights that are out in the yard. So let's have a look. We can see, if you've been following my videos, you can probably notice there are big change from last year. There are two cabinets here now because of some major changes that I had to make with expansion and what have you. So if we come across, we look at the first one that we used to have. This used to house essentially everything in it. It is now our power cabinet. So the buttons and everything are all disconnected at the front now. For some reason, these lights have stopped working. I've got to investigate why they're not working when I turn on the pixel power. So that's it all turning on. You can see the relays there all clicking on, but none of the lights are coming on the front anymore. Don't know why that is. It's not a biggie. Now I should stick my finger in there, so I'll keep the light turned off. So what have we got in here? We have got just a little C-bus light switch here, so I can go all on, all off. I can turn on and off the transmitter and the tune to and the amplifier from here, and also there's a fluoro in this shed, so I've made that easy for myself. It normally plugs into the power point where I am, but I don't have that. This relay here is controlling these three power outputs here and the power to these two power supplies. So essentially that's all of my 24 volt feeds to 400 watt, I think they are, 450 watt power supplies that go out to props around the place, and down the bottom here underneath in this box here is a 1200 watt 24 volt power supply. It's got 5 lines which are all circuit breakered at 10 amp each. I run the Anderson not power pole, the power pole connector, sorry, for all of my 48 volt stuff. I quite like them because they are a hermaphroditic connector, meaning there is no gender on it, which means I can just lay the cables out, plug them in, and off I go. I've had to make a double adapter for one of them this year to split out one of the lines because I had the way I did it, I couldn't loop them. The top power supply here died about 2 days into show, so that's what this one here is. I'm just not focusing on it. There it is. It's a 500 watt 24 volt power supply that I've just done in there. It's got different mounting and I haven't had a chance to put it in properly yet, so it's just sitting there. On top of this, in this metal case here, is another C-bus relay with 4 outputs that go and do the what do they do? The amplifier, the compressor, the transmitter and EQ on one, and the shed light here. Now that's a separate box. I don't like it because I've now got the room in here. I've got another 4-port C-bus relay here which I will pop in, or I'll redo things. I've got a spare 12-way relay that I might just put in here instead to do that, and completely redo this box. That was a very last minute change that I thought I would do, is put that relay in, didn't get a chance to. Audio stuff, similar to last year. There's the amplifier driving the speakers out the front. That gets turned on and off by the C-bus with the push to listen. I'll explain a little bit more about that later. There is the compressor, so it has very minimal compression, just to take the big boomy bits out of the speakers, and quite significant compression on the audio line going to the transmitter. That way I can ramp down the FPP volume without affecting the transmission output too much. I do have a separate video already published to YouTube on that. Up here there is an equalizer. That is, you can see, taking the low end out, and the low cut is turned on as well from the transmitter. I did find, and I've heard a few people have issues where some of the songs have got really heavy bass in them. You don't really hear it, but it distorts the living crap out of the audio. So we keep that one in there, and that tidies that up. And down the bottom here, still in the same spot, is the transmitter. That hasn't moved in 4 years. There's a hole drilled in the shed. The antenna's poking out the back. I'm going to move it next year. I actually don't like it. The transmission has not been perfect this year. Now, the big change, this cabinet here, this is now my main control cabinet. So what do we have in here? We have got a network switch. So this was upgraded from last year. Last year, if you remember, I had it dangling in the other cabinet on top of the little 8-port. I've got my PoE injector. Now that one there, previously everything was hardwired with the pairs split out. This one actually does the same pair colorings that I already use, so blue positive, brown negative, which is the one that Ubiquiti use and a few others use for mid-span PoE, and I do have another video on that if you're interested. And then, so the show player is still in here, the Raspberry Pi. It's a 3B Plus. I've put an RTC on it. I've put a OLED on it as well. For the sake of it, there's a USB extension which goes out up there to the Sound Blaster, and then network to the switch, and then the F48 V4 that used to be in a separate enclosure now lives in here as well. All of the stuff in here, 5 volts for the Pi, I think it's 12 volts for the F16, the switch will run off 12 volts, the power injection is 12 volts, is all coming off this little 250 watt computer power supply. There is also this little switch here, which quietens it down a bit, which turns that fan on and off. And I've drilled some holes in the side of that Raspberry Pi case to get a bit of cool air in there, because it does get quite warm. And then there's a power light and switch on the front here that basically turns on and off the soft power of that power supply. So if I need to restart everything, I can. The network switch with this one, what I did is I took the whole thing apart, drilled some holes in the case, and so the case is actually screwed to the metal enclosure. I also removed the Wi-Fi antennas, it's got built-in Wi-Fi off the back, and you can see they're mounted there. And if I come to the top of the case, they are sticking out the top. So at some point I'll transition across to those. At the moment I'm still using the Ubiquiti just because I didn't have the motivation to change it. And there are 2 network cables that come out to a pair of jacks on the side here. One of them is, the blue one is the uplink into the house, and the yellow one is coming across into this guy here, which is the C-bus bridge. So it takes the, it's essentially a network to serial bridge, and it's putting out the right protocol for C-bus to control all of the hardware in here. One other addition, so I've been battling some noise issues on the audio output, both ground loops and this really interesting like type sound whenever the Pi was under load. So I have got, as you can see here, there's the Sound Blaster there, and I'll talk about the little blue box in just a second. It comes through, it goes through that ground loop isolator, which isolates it, splits into the 2 inputs here. The output of this compressor goes through this isolator into the transformer. It also, the other output comes across through the second isolator here into the EQ and then into the transmitter. So those ground loop isolators have been great, removing all the low 50 hertz, 100 hertz hum in the audio. Now this one here, what this is this is a USB isolator, and it works essentially the same way as the audio ones, but it does it at a digital level. And what I was doing is when I was looking at what this thing is, it's essentially a ground loop on the digital line caused by the Raspberry Pi and the integration with the power and how I've got it all done. This guy here has been an absolute godsend. Plug it in line and all the noise disappeared. It went dead quiet on my audio output. They are designed, you can pick them up for, some of them are $20 off Amazon. There are some which are $120 off Amazon now. The difference there is they all say USB 2. The $20 ones only support full speed, which is your 12 megabit, which is essentially 1.1 speeds, but over USB 2. The $120 ones support the 480 megabit full speed, high speed, USB 2 protocol. Now, before I purchased this thing, I went through and I checked the Raspberry Pi, looked in the DMSG logs, everything like that. The Sound Blaster links at 12 megabits, the full speed, the lower one, which meant I could get the $20 adapter. Fantastic piece of kit. So if you do have audio issues where it's a high frequency and it changes based on what you're doing, if you're scrolling through, refreshing the web interface in FPP and the sound gets worse, look at getting yourself one of these. It literally just plugs in line and it helps significantly. Output-wise here, there's 8 network outputs, which all come to my passive PoE solution. So there's, all the controllers in the yard. You can see there's one here that goes to the access point that we'll talk about on the other side of the window. There's a Baldric input 1 here, which I'm testing for my push to listen. I haven't got it finished yet, so I've got my solution. Goes across to the other side of the house where there's a network switch there, and into the front yard there's a little network switch there because there's a couple of things, and I'll go through that in just a second when we go out the front. So quite a few changes here this year. Like I mentioned, I'll tidy up this power cabinet a bit more in the off season. I was running significantly behind time this year, so sort of hodged everything together. Also in here behind, as per previous years, I've got my iota watt sitting there on the thing. So it is got current transformers on the 4 outputs here, 4 outputs there, the 4 outputs over at the other relay, which we'll look at in a minute. And then the remaining 2 is a master for the shed and a master for my other feed, so I can see exactly how much the show is using at any moment. And right now, it just stays sitting here at around 60 watts of utilization, obviously a lot more with the fluoro turned on, 24/7. And then when the show runs, I peak up at about 1.2 kilowatts with the 100% butterfly before the show starts. And then it slows down quite significantly once the show's actually running because of the LEDs not being used. So turn off the light in here. It does that, makes it nice and dark. And I will head around to the front and let's talk some more about what's on the house and has changed this year. All right, part 2. I lied. I said I'd go around the front. I'm going to start on the side here. This is the other side of the house. So starting here, this power feed that I put in once the spa bath was removed basically does the majority of the show, plus the power feed that's in the shed on the other side. And so it just runs all the way up around the right-hand side of the house when looking from the street, and pops in up there to in all that mess. I really need to tidy all this stuff up and get something. I've got a little speed bump here which takes a power and a network. This thing works quite nicely. Just run one cable in each channel across the driveway. In here I have got an Advotech E4S. I keep getting that wrong. Oh, I've opened it up. Oh, and there's the power supply falling out. So it's got a 5 volt, 300 watt power supply in it, driving 3 of the outputs. And then this is a little 12 volt power brick, which does 1 of the outputs on it. I had some issues with this controller this year. I upgraded the firmware to the latest one and it stopped doing all pixel outputs, so I had to downgrade it. That caught me off guard. So I would have thought that Advotech would have done a little bit better with their QA on that, unless if I did something completely wrong. So this controller only does 2 things. These modules that are on top of the fence here, get that in focus. So they're a little 3 LED, where is it? There we go. 3 LED pixel module, WS2011 12 volts. That's what that 12 volt brick is for. And there are 24 of those that run along the fence. And the other thing it does is the cane that is on this gate here. And that just meant that I didn't have to run stuff across the front of the driveway. And the bulk of the travelling over that speed bump is me and my car, and not so much my wife and her car. Out the front here, nothing has really changed on the front fence this year. I've still got the 5 mini trees, the 5 arches and the 6 canes. The positions of like the push to listen and QR codes for Lights for Kids campaign and all that sort of stuff move ever so slightly, but that's just because I can never remember exactly where they are, and they fit wherever I put them. Still got all of the bunting strings in the hedges here. I've trimmed the hedges down significantly this year. They were up probably about this high just over the fence. So I've taken a good 30 centimetres off them. I'd love to get rid of them, but we're working there. That has, 1, made it a lot neater, but 2, given a lot more visibility into the yard. Still got these 4 little red spiral mini trees that I made from the Aldi tomato cages. and the speakers are still the same speakers under the same chlorine buckets and the same pavers. They get packed away every year. Now I was saying there's a network switch in the front yard. That's him there, sitting in the tree. It's a tiny little box, and it's got one what I call network in, because that's the polarity of the connector for the PoE, and 3 outs on it. So one of those goes to my push to listen custom solution, ESP32 in there, running some firmware called Festive Pulse, and it's got a MOSFET there, which is basically just used to drive the big LED in the button, because you can't do it from a GPIO. And there is a little regulator there to give the ESP32 5 volts. Also in that switch, in that enclosure connected to the 5th port of the switch that physically exists, is a Baldrick signals board. So I've just got that to try this year, and it's plotting into Home Assistant. Worked out the API from the Baldrick Facebook page, and so I get some numbers. I don't know how good or accurate or whatever they are, but it's interesting to see, and I'm going to start marrying that data up against my power statistics, because I get with the power I can see when the amplifier turns on and off, so when somebody's actually come and pushed the button on the front of the house. So that's kind of interesting. I've got 3 12-volt floodlights this year, not 5 that I had previous years. I did have 5 when I first set it up, and if anybody has saw my posts on the Oz Christmas Lighting unofficial Facebook page, you'll see that 2 of them caught fire this year, and that was due to the power injection cable polarity getting incorrect because it was so hot. The plastic just deformed and allowed me to plug it together the wrong way around. Still got the Pixelbone 48 Smart Alec Lights controller here. It was my old Megatree controller, so I haven't done anything with that one. It's still got the 2 350 watt power supplies in it, and it works an absolute treat for out the front here, because it's got 12, it's wired with 12 pixel outputs and 12 separate power injection outputs. And then I've got the DMX2 24 with the ESP32 in it this year. Now I'm going to change that ESP32 out to something else, Ethernet based, which can do DMX output. I haven't decided what yet. It might still be another ESP32, just so it's not on Wi-Fi, because I don't like Wi-Fi. 3 spiral trees. These are new this year. I really like these ones. One of the ACL folk gave me these spiral cages that he had spare. I've just wrapped, I think it's 222 5-volt seeds at 2.5 centimeter spacing around them, focus camera. And the end, I've just, at the moment, I haven't done anything with it. Let me just try and get that to focus. I've just cut that at an angle so that the wires don't short out. I really should finish that off at some point. But they look absolutely magical at night, with the tiny little dots, especially where some of the effects where you get just 1 or 2 dots rotating up the tree. Looks really, really good. So I'm very happy with the way they came out. They filled in this little area here in the front of the yard between the palm trees. 1 power injection box, that's basically taking the 24 volt feed for the 3 floods and give me 12 volts, because the controller in the front is all 5 volts, and pretty much my whole display, other than the Megatree and those floods, is 5 volts. Cables just run around. Mrs. got a new garden in here, so I've had to fidget around with that. Megatree, same as last year. 30 strands, 150 alternate node wired 12 volt pixels, and 150 pixels in the Chroma that's a 3 foot 90 centimeter Chroma. Looks quite nice. I haven't spoken much about this pole before, I don't think. So I built this one in when I first built the tree in 2022. So it's got a winch here, so I can raise and lower it. The controller is just connected. It's on a baseboard for flatness, but it goes onto the post like that. And then there is a black. The black ring is a irrigation cap, so I can cover it off, and some 50mm conduit concreted in about 1 metre into the ground. Holds it up quite nicely. So So this is the stuff here, it's all A-wood, pigtails, everything else I do is X-connect, so I can tell the difference between my 5 and 12. And then I've got these couple of guy wires on the back here that connect actually up to the topper, and I'll try and get it, but the sun's right above us. And that's to stop the front of it drooping down, because it's only a 200-degree tree, roughly. It keeps the start level. And then there are 3 guy wire ropes holding the actual post in place. That's the back of the shed. There's the AP dangling there. There's the antenna for the transmitter and a hole with all the cables coming out. It's a bit of a mess this year. I didn't neaten it up as well as I like to. Coming around, nothing much on the actual house here has changed. All the same props as last year. The showstopper spinners, again, great hit. Glad I put that on last year. All of that stuff is controlled off the F48 and some differential receivers. All of this stuff on here is controlled by an F16 V4 Falcon in that beige enclosure down the bottom there. So 4 enclosures here. First one is another C-bus relay, so you can see there it's got the 4 outputs, and one of those is an input into it. 4 switched outputs and 1 unswitched output that goes over here somewhere for the panels, Raspberry Pi, and I'll talk about that in a sec. There is a network switch in there. Again, that's passively PoE powered with my solution. So there's a, I think I've actually got that in the PoE video. I'll take that one apart and explain how it works. And there is a differential receiver there. That's just for power purposes. Gets 24-volt feed off the other, the big power supply. Data comes from the F16 V4 there, and it is doing these ones across the eave line here, and that shines down my window washers down the house. So that's all of that. Again, I've got the big P6 panel, 288 by 144 resolution. Looks quite nice when it runs because it's reasonably high res. Let's wait for this truck to go because it's loud. At the moment, ratchet strapped to the balustrade and it's holding up quite nicely. I said last year I would do a breakdown of this. I haven't yet. I will put that on my list this year to do, but as you can see, PowerCon in, PowerCon out, goes to the other panel over there, Ethernet in and Ethernet out on each one to the 2 ports on the color light card. And then in here, this is our Raspberry Pi compute module 4, which sits in there. It's got the 2 Ethernets, 100 meg to the show network and 1 gig to the color light card, a little 5-volt power supply, and this HDMI touchscreen, which is set up as a virtual matrix to mimic what the screen is doing. So that way I don't have to power on the big screen if I want to make sure that the solution's working. And I can actually see that on the camera too. So I know that things are displaying the way they should. Touchscreen is useless because it is behind that Perspex front cover there. Now roof, a few changes on the roof this year. Come back out of here and we'll have a look at that. I'll find a shady spot. It's nice sunny today. It's a Saturday morning, 13th of December. The gutter line has changed. So when I took the gutter down last year, it was chroma trim, made out of the thin 5mm Coro. It crumbled into powder, and that's because it had been up for 14, 15 months by the time I took it down, because I didn't take anything down up. Didn't take that down after the 2023 season because I redid my bathroom. Didn't have the time. So this got upgraded from a 3-inch spaced, about 150, 200 nodes to a 4 high by I don't know how many wide matrix panel on the InCreations PVC board, and it's now got around 2,500 nodes on it, and that does some really nice effects. Rebuilding it allowed me to put some breaks in here for where the services, the power service and the other wire services come in to the house, and you can see, you know, there's another power and data coming in there. All of the panels, so you can sort of see one panel of 24 pixels is got power balancing across, so it's quite good there. And then essentially that is consuming 8 ports of a Baldric 8. 1, 2, 3 on the side, 4, and then the same 5, 6 on the side, 7 and 8 ports. He's sitting up on the roof there. Let's see if I can point to it. So just there behind the snowflake, you can sort of see a grey box that's got a Baldric 8 in it, which I've configured as a Baldric 4+4, so there's a 250 watt DC converter in there, and I can't remember the model number of it, but essentially it's one of Alan's HE123 boards which converts regular pixel data to differential. So it's got 4 differential outputs and the 4 local ones. And then the differential ones just come to another box on the other side, which has got another 250 watt DC to DC converter, and each of those have a separate feed from that big power supply we saw earlier. So you can see there's a beige box there. Where is it? Here. And he does that. I don't have the solar panel matrix, seed matrix up this year. That one there was sort of falling apart and I was having some faults at the end of last year. I'm rebuilding it now. Like I said, it's 13th of December. I'm still rebuilding it. I don't know if I'll get it up this year. I really hope I will, because it looks quite nice. I'm putting it in the SunTough panels, which is a 10mm, almost like a core flute, but clear. And it gives a really nice diffused effect and what have you. But my goodness me, it's a pain in the butt. So if you can keep away from that. It's also doubling the resolution in each direction. So I had 10cm space seeds. So I think it was 11 by 18. And we're going to 18 by 35. So they're 630 pixels per solar panel will be now coming in. So it's coming off 2 differential outs on the F48 V4. Still got the 4 snowflakes up there, the big ones, and the 3 singing light globes. And it was pointed out to me by one of my viewers the other night that the middle one looks like he's got eyebrows, which is with the 2 little metal brackets, which is something I had never seen before, but now will not unsee. That was quite funny. The camera I mentioned last year, the 180-degree camera, is now permanently mounted up there and connected into my frigate camera system. I moved away from Milestone X Protect, which I had a limitation of 8 cameras, to frigate earlier this year, and so that allowed me to just put that one up permanently rather than getting out for show season. The Junior Zoo sign here, exactly the same, hasn't changed. It is still the 3 P5 panels in there with the Beagle Bone driving it. I'm looking at maybe upgrading those to P1.8, P2.5, something like that for next year, and putting a colour light in it instead. But I'll see what the cost is going to be like, go from there. Back to the big panel here. This is what I was saying. I just put these 3 L-shaped brackets, so they're screwed into the brick below with Dynabolts, 3 per thing, and it just sits on that. So that's holding most of the downward force, and the ratchet straps are holding the stopping the thing falling off the front. So that's my show for 2025. If there's anything you want more information on, please ping me, please get in touch. I will be more than happy to answer any questions and show anyone through any more detail of what they would like to see. Otherwise, if you're seeing this before the end of 2025, please come and see the show. Please scan the QR code and donate to the Light for Kids campaign. Help some sick kids out who are spending their Christmas in hospital rather than at home enjoying all of this. Thanks everyone, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.